Hello everyone and welcome to another Top 5 Records video. Is the final hype over? A lot of people have been speculating about this. There are some articles on the internet that even make claims that in the US the vinyl sales have been going down for 33%. What's going on? What is the truth? I will dive deeper into it, but we can certainly say that something is changing. But first of all, I think it's wise to take a look at the final hype of what has been going on. Between 2015 and 2020, there was an incredible increase in the sales of records. Also, on the audiophile market, there were a lot of scalpers. Some audiophile releases got sold better. Some classic titles got sold better. New artists decided to release their records in larger numbers on vinyl. A younger generation got interested into them. And then in 2019, the sales level of vinyl was the same as in 1987. Now, if that might blow your mind, the next numbers will blow your mind even more, because in 2020, when Corona started, the sales of 2019 just doubled. And then 2021, they doubled again. And in 2022, it didn't double. I believe it increased by about 40%. It had to slow down at a certain moment. But is that hype? What's going on? Well, obviously, Corona, COVID, pandemic, people are sitting inside, starting new hobbies. And what people do notice that now after COVID is long gone, some people are giving up on their hobbies. But is it that much to say that a vinyl hype is over? Honestly, I think differently. The specific numbers for this year or last year, they are ambiguous, but the 33% claim is proven to be untrue. Those numbers are made up. Does that mean that nothing at all is going on? No, there is definitely something going on. If you ask record sellers all around, are the sales the same? You hear that there is, and it's tough to get numbers from companies like Universal, the big companies. So you ask record sellers, and it's not bad. There's a slight decrease because of what people have been talking about and what I just mentioned. Some people are giving up on collecting. So also when you go into record stores and you look at the newly arrivals, there is getting more and more recent uh, pressings are there. Adele shows up, Harry Styles shows up. I The thing is, when Adele's last album got released, I already thought, just as the last ABBA record, I thought, yeah, people are buying it now for about $30. Um, but I guess this is gonna be what Nana Muscuri and Neil Diamond are for us right now. These were sold in large numbers. I don't think they will remain steady. That was my guess, and that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Thing is, it's not per se that the sales are horribly going down. I do not notice that sellers are in doubt, or it's just a little bit lower. On the other hand, Discogs, the website where you can buy and sell secondhand vinyl, even claims that they had a 6.2% increase last year. But then again, these numbers are different because new vinyl versus old vinyl, how do you find out what the numbers are? That was also my first notice when the record sales from 2019 and 2020 were discussed. Since secondhand vinyl usually does not get registered tax-wise, at least in the record stores a lot, these numbers have to come from new vinyl. So then the market is even bigger, because I assume, but that's just an assumption, that in 1987, the second-hand vinyl world may not be as big as right now, because right now we have a lot more second-hand vinyl. There is also a renewed interest in old artists. Generation Z is interested in bands like Fleetwood Mac, Pink Floyd, Queen. It's more, how do you say this, modern or hip to be interested in the classic records. So, what's actually going on there? The thing is that most record sellers do notice, and you can also see that a bit on Discogs, the scalping is over. And that's an important change. And I also think that will influence the audiophile market. Because what you saw in 2015, between 2015 and 2020, and that's also when I got interested in audiophile pressings and original pressings, that when a company like Analog Productions or some other releases from Classic Records or even some MoFi titles, they got released, they sold out quickly, and then the scalping began. So the prices, they became higher and higher and higher. Now something has definitely changed there. I was in New York a couple of weeks ago, and there I found a 45 RPM of Blue Train by John Coltrane, and it was priced at only $100. I believe it was the Music Matters. Now, about 5 years ago, if I would have found one for $100, I would have immediately bought it because the value of that was, I believe, between 200 or 300. But right now, I thought, yeah, I already got the recent Blue Note reissue, mastered by Kevin Gray, I believe. The quality of that is just astonishing. And that one went for about 40 or $50. Am I going to buy a 45 RPM for these numbers when there are so many great reissues available? The market for audiophile titles is changing because that one step is not the only unique chance to get an audiophile pressing. A lot of companies, Impex, Analog Productions, MoFi, they are competing, and the amount of very special titles has definitely increased. Between 2015 2020, when there would be a UHQR or a one-step release, you'd have one or two in a year. At this moment, I I cannot collect everything that's coming out. The rate is so much higher. So a lot of the same titles get beautiful audiophile treatment. No reason for scalpers to buy the whole lot and to let the price go up because they're competing. There are more coming around the corner. And actually, I think that is a good thing. So the money won't go to scalpers, but the money goes to the people who made it, and we're allowed to buy it for a fair price. Now, some people who have joined the vinyl community or the collecting are giving up on it right now. And part of me thinks it's, yeah, a lot of the newer titles. I do enjoy it when there's this common sense of buying vinyl and the cheer of a new record being released on vinyl. But as a matter of fact, I noticed this last year, there's also a slight change in the way that I collect. If you look at the earliest videos of my channel this year, I have a lot of new vinyl. The new Dua Lipa album, the new Beyonce, I pre-ordered that. The new Taylor Swift, I pre-ordered that. The new Billie Eilish, I pre-ordered that. And although these last three artists are artists which I will remain to pre-order, I wouldn't buy the Dua Lipa right now. And for the last couple of videos or reviews I've done, I didn't buy the Coldplay. I listened to that digitally. I didn't buy the new The Cure album. I listened to that digitally. I didn't buy the new Lady Gaga album, the new Katy Perry album. And there's a very simple reason. Records are becoming, especially the new ones, very, very expensive. I've stopped buying an album that I'm not sure if I'm going to give it more spins than the spins it needs to record a new video. And I think a lot of people are now in a moment when you're going to pay 30, 40, or sometimes even $50 for a new album and you're not sure if the artist will really grab your attention. And for $20, you would have made the guess. And it's also a good investment because listening to it on vinyl, I find it easier to fall in love with the music. Then it's easier to take a risk. But these prices, 30 or $40 for a new pressing of a new album, it's just a letdown. About a week or two ago, I did a video on the new Queen 1 2024 remix. Um, Actually, after buying that album, I immediately regretted buying it. It was 37 euros. I gave it a spin, a good comparison, and I decided I'm not going to listen to it again. It's just not better than my Queen 1 pressing. I wish I listened to that digitally and did not spend that money. So I could have spent that 37 euros on a record I really, really want. I went to the largest record fair in the world last weekend. It was in the Brabanthalle in Den Bosch in the Netherlands. And there are so many interesting old titles I wish I would have spent that money on. And it just didn't. So we're getting more cautious. And perhaps if the market cools a bit down, the numbers of these prices will go down. And I think we really, really need that. Going out and buying a record should not per se be an investment. I mean, it should also be trying out, having some fun in a record store, and trying out something new. Now, these changes in the market, what do I personally think of this? Um, I do notice that although some of these newer titles are coming back, that the prices of these originals and OGs, they do keep increasing. So I don't think that the collector's world is changing that much versus the um, more common vinyl listener world. I think the new vinyl sales are definitely changing. The classic world, well, also if you take a look at the numbers of discogs, might still be just increasing. This weekend I was at the record fair in Brabanthalle, and they do two editions of that every year. And the last edition, about half a year ago, wasn't that busy. And a half a year before that, so a year ago, it was actually rather quiet. So I thought, this might actually be the decrease of the final hype. So I went there last Saturday thinking it'll be nice and calm, and I actually didn't really mind that because sometimes people get me very pushy at this record fair. I actually prefer just going to a city and finding the local record shops because it's more calm. You get to have more peaceful chats. There's not this excitement of hunting people, pushing over or getting into your crate because they can't wait for you to finish. I peacefully want to look at a vinyl, look at its state, find on Discogs if it's actually the version that I'm looking for. Um, and that's a bit tough at the record fair. And this Saturday, it was really very, very busy. So I did not notice a decrease there. What will happen though if the numbers that some record sellers and shops are noticing that it's slightly off in the regard of new vinyl, if that will continue? Um, well, I still like it that some newer titles become available secondhand and for a lower price. I think that's good. That gets me more interested into new music, not having to pay the full price for it. I think the diehard collectors market will remain somewhat the same because we still see it increase. And the people who got interested in new vinyl are likelier to also get into the diehard collecting or original collecting because, I mean, it is a development or a change, or you have to start somewhere, you know. Um, for me, the most important thing is because I wouldn't even mind if the market cools down, and I think the market is cooling down slightly, but with nuance. I'll get into that later. As long as the record stores are open, from me personally, that's the best thing. Also, I think that some people returning their collection or selling them back to record shops might not be a bad thing. What I notice in Amsterdam, but also at other big cities like London, or a couple of weeks ago in New York or in San Francisco, when you go to marketplaces or the smaller record shops, I've heard a lot of them complain that since 2022, 2023, it was tough to get second-hand vinyl. So some shops are actually suffering from the market of secondhand vinyl for buying for the store to dry out. They need new titles to just keep their shops rolling. And if people are returning interesting titles, these shops can remain open. I think that might be a good development. So that's a good thing. Um, the 30%, the 33% thing is bullshit, but a minor cool down might actually be good. What does it mean for the audiophile market? Well, the scalping is over. If people are gonna spend less money on new vinyl, the audiophile market will definitely notice that because these are new vinyls. Vinyl, it's not with an S. This new vinyl. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing either. At this moment, there are so many audiophile releases that I cannot keep track of them. Between 2015, 2022, or 2015 and 2020, you had about one or two one steps or UHQRs a year. At this moment, it is so much more. I don't think it's bad if that cools down a little bit so you have more anticipation for a new title. I don't mind it if it goes the way it goes right now, but I don't think that it's all gonna dry out. Because, and that's what I noticed with a lot of these videos and articles, people love to speculate about the end of a hype. We've seen a lot of hypes the last couple of years, especially in a big city like here in Amsterdam. Coffee and specific coffee brands, the craft beer market, and I think comparing vinyl to the craft beer market might be a good thing to do. About 15 years ago, I'm a craft beer lover, and I really got into craft beer. And then there was this incredible increase, and a lot of local brewers just arose. And I started talking to the employers and the sellers of these beers, and they said, "Yeah, it's just so incredible. It just keeps increasing. It's gotta be a bubble that will stop." And a year later, I'd go back during a beer festival, and they say, "No, no, it just kept increasing, just kept increasing. It's gotta be a bubble that will stop." And then 5 years into it, people said, "It's not a bubble. Something is changing." Now, they did notice a couple of years ago that the increase of craft beer was cooling down and that some new brewers, the lesser ones, just had to stop because they weren't able to make it worthwhile. But during that increase, there became a lot of new interesting brewers, and they say it's getting stable now, and we do notice something has changed. Buying a Pilsner or a lager is not the norm anymore. It's pretty normal for a bar to have a assortment of craft beers. I was in Varna in Bulgaria a week ago, and it's not the most modern place in the world. I think Bulgarians will agree. But there was an incredible craft beer shop where I could find some of the most gorgeous craft beers that I wanted. You know, something changed. Craft beer, special beer has become more part of the mainstream. And I think that's where we're getting now with vinyl. I think the next couple of years we will see a definite cool down. These prices were going everywhere, and that's not fun for everyone. And some people will return their collections. But something has changed. There is a new value, a new love for the way we listen to music. To going into a record store and finding a title you like in this big cardboard box. To hold an old or a new pressing and to look forward to the moment that your needle will go into its grooves and you'll listen to it the way it was originally meant or is not it's meant now. That experience, even if you're not an audiophile, but that experience of going into town, discussing the title, looking at it, finding more titles, that's a love, a modern love that has returned, that is not destroyed, by the easy consumption of digital music. And if you love something digitally, you might even buy it on vinyl. So I'm curious, what do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Leave a comment below and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.